Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2019 science fiction comedy James versus His Future Self. This is a film that was co-written and directed by Jeremy Lamond, and it stars Jonas Chenick, who also co-wrote the film, Daniel Stern, yes that's Daniel Stern from Home Alone, the Home Alone films, Cleopatra Coleman and Francis Conroy. Now this is a film that focuses on Jonas Chenwick's character James, who is a genius scientist who spends his days obsessing over his calculations, and he's trying to figure out time travel basically. But he's losing everyone close to him. There's someone who's interested in him romantically that he is not seeing, and he's losing his sister as well. Because he's so obsessed with his work. And then he receives a visit from Daniel Stern's character Jimmy, who drops the bombshell that he is in fact James, the future version of James, and he has travelled back in time to warn him that his invention of time travel will be catastrophic for him in the future, and he's trying to convince him to not invent this technology going forward. However, James isn't particularly susceptible to this advice and wants to continue with his research, so a battle of wills ensues, so to speak. Right, so what are my thoughts on this film, James versus His Future Self? Well, first things first, I think the concept of this is absolutely brilliant. What a great idea for a film. And I wasn't sure what to make of this film initially, and then I warmed to it very, very quickly. This is a really, really fun and charming film with some really, really clever writing that made me literally chuckle and laugh out loud many, many times watching this film. Daniel Stern is fab in this film. He's absolutely hilarious. Consistently throughout this film he is the shining star in this film, and don't get me wrong, all the characters in this film are nicely written and nicely fleshed out. James's character, this obsessed scientist, he's got a great arc in this film and his performance is fantastic. Cleopatra Coleman, who plays his love interest, is really, really good in this film, as is everybody, and everybody is either pretty deadpan or pretty by the book, or just damn hilarious. And this relationship between James and his future self, the chemistry there is just fantastic. The way they bounce off each other, they're like two ends of the scale, if you like. And some of the stuff that Daniel Stern comes out with, I promise you'll be absolutely laughing out loud with it. The way he chooses to identify to James that he is in fact his future self is really quite inventive and quite hilarious, and it's very, very funny. And there's other scenes in the film where in the future tomato sauce or ketchup is really, really rare, so he manages to hoard all these hot dogs, pour all this tomato sauce all over them, spills them on the floor, still picks them up, and there's this young lady who's quite disgusted with him, and his response to her is just classic. It's absolutely fantastic. It's an absolute gem of a film, this. It's very, very funny, and the human drama here as well is very, very believable, because the characters are really, really nicely written, and they've got these backstories and they've got these real life dramas going on in their life, and they rightly didn't just focus on this relationship between James and his future self. Everybody else in this film is given care and attention to make them feel like real people, so therefore you believe all this drama and all these storylines that are going on and all these dramatic things that are happening. It's a very, very cleverly written film, a very, very nicely made film with really, really impressive performances, and it's essentially a rom-com, this, with a twist, I suppose. And even though the story elements here and the story beats are certainly sci-fi, there's no science fiction to speak of really here. There's a trying to think if there is any scenes of anything science fiction, and there's one that pops in my head very much near the end. Other than that, you don't really see, you don't see people flashing through time and people, I don't know. There's no real special effects to speak of, is what I'm saying here. So the story is science fiction, but visually it's not a science fiction film, if that makes any sense to you at all. So if you really are looking for a really clever comedy with a sci-fi twist, with some really clever writing, some really interesting characters, and some really fantastic performances, I think you could do far worse than watch this film. I must admit, I had a bit of a blast watching this film, and it was a nice, refreshing change of pace, because some comedies you watch, and it's hard, you see, because comedy's subjective. What I might find funny, somebody else won't find funny, but I'm fairly confident that some of the stuff in this film, I think most people would find funny. The situation and some of the things that Daniel Stern says and comes out with is just classic. So I'm fairly confident that this will probably sit well with most people if they watch it, because it's a really fun film to watch, really chilled out and laid back film to watch, but really smart, snappy writing and cleverly made film that I do strongly recommend. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It's one I would certainly look to add to my collection. It's a really good film, so that is my review for James versus his future self. One definitely to check out if you get the opportunity. So thank you very much for watching, everybody, and of course I will see you back for more reviews on Screen Stars very soon.